Hey there. Hope you're doing well. Today, we're talking about something that's not just frustrating, but potentially costing people thousands of dollars: stolen tax refund checks. Yep, you heard that right. Tax refund checks are being stolen right out of the mail. Now, I know most people these days prefer direct deposit, but for a variety of reasons, millions of people still get their refunds by mail. And, unfortunately, thieves have noticed. It's a growing problem that's left a lot of taxpayers feeling helpless, waiting for a refund that never arrives. So, what's going on here, and what can you do about it? Well, if you've ever been waiting on that refund check and it seems to be taking longer than usual, it might not just be a slow mail day. Sadly, mail theft is on the rise, and tax refund checks are a prime target. Some people are losing out on thousands, and in some cases, checks are being stolen and fraudulently cashed multiple times. It's such a widespread issue that even Congress is pushing the IRS and Treasury to step up and make changes to prevent this kind of fraud. One real-life example might shock you. There are people out there who've had their refund check stolen more than once. Imagine waiting months for your refund, only for the check to disappear, and then when you finally get a replacement, it's stolen again. In some cases, people have had to request new checks several times, going through a long, frustrating process and still ending up without their money. It's really frustrating, and honestly, it can feel like there's no way to win in these situations. And what's worse, when a check is stolen, getting a replacement isn't as easy as you'd think. The process to trace and replace a stolen check takes months, and for some people, they've had to go through it more than once. The IRS has a system for this, where you fill out a form, mail or fax it in, and start the tracing process. Yes, fax, like it's 1995. Once that's done, the Treasury cuts you a new check. But if that one's stolen too, well, the process starts all over again. Now, I know some of you might be wondering, why don't more people just use direct deposit? It's true, over 90% of taxpayers do opt for direct deposit, and it really is the fastest, safest way to get your refund. But there are still around 10 million people who either prefer to receive a paper check or have no other option. Maybe they're uncomfortable giving their bank information to the IRS, or maybe there was a mistake in the direct deposit process that pushed them into getting a paper check instead. Whatever the reason, once you're set to get a paper check for a particular tax year, you can't switch to direct deposit, even if the check gets lost or stolen. What makes this even trickier is that it's not just the initial checks being stolen. Sometimes, even the replacement checks are taken. It's happening enough that lawmakers are trying to step in, and the IRS has acknowledged that their system needs updating. They're working on a fix that would allow people to change their refund preferences online, but it's still a few years away from being ready. In the meantime, we've got to rely on the current system, which is, let's face it, slow and outdated. Speaking of which, if you've had a check stolen, there are a few steps you can take. First, contact the IRS and request a refund trace. You'll need to fill out a form, send it in, and wait while they investigate. If it's confirmed that your check was stolen, they'll issue a new one. But like I mentioned earlier, the process can take anywhere from 30 days to 4 months. And that's if everything goes smoothly the first time. On top of that, mail theft is on the rise across the board. The Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network recently issued an alert about this increase in check fraud. They've seen cases where thieves are stealing checks straight from the mail, altering them, and then depositing them into fraudulent accounts. Some of these criminals are even using social media platforms to recruit people to help them with the fraud. It's gotten to the point where federal prosecutors are sending people to prison for these crimes, and they're not messing around. We're talking about millions of dollars in stolen checks here. So then, what's the best way to protect yourself? Well, the easiest thing you can do is sign up for direct deposit if you haven't already. It's faster, safer, and you'll have way less to worry about when it comes to lost or stolen checks. And if you're already expecting a paper check and haven't received it within the expected time frame, don't wait. Call the IRS to start that refund trace process as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the longer it could take to resolve. Another thing to consider is monitoring your mail closely. If you know your refund check is on the way, keep an eye out for it, and if you can, use a locked mailbox. That way, there's less risk of someone being able to swipe it without you knowing. And, speaking of safety, if you do end up having to go through the process of getting a replacement check, Make sure you're keeping all your paperwork in order. It can be a long process, and having everything organized will make it easier for you to follow up and stay on top of things. Now, I know this topic might sound stressful, but the key here is to be proactive. Don't let mail theft catch you off guard. Whether you're waiting for a tax refund or any other important mail, it's worth taking a few steps to protect yourself. And remember, while this problem is definitely frustrating, the IRS is working on modernizing their system. Hopefully, in the near future, they'll have better protections in place to make sure these kinds of thefts are harder to pull off. And hey, if you've had any experiences with stolen checks or refund delays, feel free to share them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what steps you took to get your refund, and maybe it can help someone else who's dealing with the same thing right now. Plus, let me know if you have any other questions about tax refunds or ways to protect your financial information. I'm always happy to help. Thanks for sticking around, and I hope this was helpful. Remember, stay safe out there, especially when it comes to your hard-earned money. See you in the next one.